And she said, I'm sorry, we don't have that. So we were looking at each other, and the phrase computer says no came to mind. And we said, well, why not? Well, there's no ham and cheese sandwich in the system. Then we said, there's one ham and sandwich there, and there's one cheese sandwich there. Yeah, but there's no ham and cheese sandwich in the system. Computer says no. Luckily, we used our brain and said, we'll take them both. We get the ham sandwich, we get the cheese sandwich. Would you be so kind to cut them in half and switch them around and order one ham sandwich, one cheese sandwich? Then everybody's happy. So she cut it in half, she gave him the 2 cheese sandwiches and gave me the ham sandwich. This, my friends, is a very good example of, well, not tech-savvy behavior, I would say. Or you could say it is tech-savvy behavior, because if the computer says no, you cannot have a ham and cheese sandwich. This is what Michael will enlighten us all about in his next speech.
Thanks. Hi guys, I'm Michael. Now, I know the introduction might have been different. I'm not going to be talking about how to make a really good ham and cheese sandwich. Feel free to drop by Delight, and I'm sure you can come up with your own permutations. But that does bring, the note really does bring to attention about some of the big things that we notice in technology and human behavior. And for the most part, what I'm going to be talking about here is the tension that you see over time. So I know this is a really tech-savvy group. So if I tend to gloss over things, or if I don't go into hardcore detail about the back end of the different devices and whatnot, don't kill me. But you're welcome to ask me questions afterwards. If I know the answers, I'd happy to answer them. If I don't, I'll be honest as well and let you know I don't know them. But I think in true form, I like usually starting off with, well, not this, but that's me, in case you needed a photo to see the guy talking to you. But in true form, I figured I'd start it off in a light note, since we've just finished something really snazzy to get our brains going. And yeah, I hope the audio, we're using the speakers, so don't worry. Yeah, so the ham and cheese issue was my first experience with cinema and technology. And then the audio, no, I'm just kidding.
Amazing how different shit is now. And it hasn't been this way for a long time. It's been a very short time. Everybody has a phone in their pocket. It didn't used to be. You had just a few years ago, nobody had their phone. It was just the phone. It was this thing, the phone, that was in a room in your house. And then you had to dial this fucking thing. There was a rotor, and you had to turn it and go. You actually hated people with zeros in their numbers, because they made you do, oh, this guy's got a 0 and a 9. How badly do I want to talk to that piece of shit? That's too much work. Now we have this, which is amazing. We have these phones that you can call in an airstrike. You can look at the top of your own head. It's...
And like, I, in all fairness, I'd love to watch the entire Louis C.K. sort of thing, and that's a pretty hideous picture, so I'll just yeah. This is what happens when you trim at like 2 in the morning. But at the core of what he's talking about, I think, is an inner tension in technology and the development thereof, where you get a lot of people that are so keen about the tech itself, that the coders, the back end, the ones that love the hardware and the software that goes into making things. And then you get the people that are very design, very user-centric. The people like a lot of famous designers, you know, Eames, for instance, is a good example of design being very focused on user-centricity. There's a lot of trends these days that focus on simple, clean lines, at simple formats and interfaces to really help people understand how to use a platform. I heard a joke recently, or I heard a comment recently that good user experience and good user design is like a joke. If you don't get it, or if you have to explain it, then you're already in deep trouble. And so what I want to talk about today is actually the tension between the people that develop, or the things that are being developed on a purely technical sense, and the human side of things, the aspects of how those devices fit into our everyday lives. And Tim O'Reilly is a tech expert. I'm sure maybe you guys have seen some of his articles, or he's big on the PSFK and TechCrunch kind of circles. But he highlights really what I think is interesting is that once the things themselves start getting smarter, more contextually aware, more sensitive to their environment, almost like the drone that knows when it needs to come home, the usage of this tech becomes a little more richer because it fits into our lives. And so what we've dealt with over the past couple of years is the technological evolution of things being developed just for the sake of developing them, just for the sake of pushing the limits of the programming languages, of coming up with new iterations of programming languages to adapt to new uses. I remember back in the day when Shockwave was amazing, and now nobody tells anyone you know how to program in, well, maybe some for queries and stuff like that, for faster. Anyways, I'm not going to get into that. I promised you I wouldn't. But basically, it's the fact that tech is often developed with a very cold, very logical, very dry sort of orientation, and only recently has it ended in, has it sort of culminated, not ended, into a more user-centric focus. But when technology, in this sense, when it fits within a context, when it works, when it understands what you're doing at a particular moment, and when it understands what you're going to be doing, you open up a whole new possibility for predictive technology, for things that help you do things better. This, for example, is just you put a pot or a pan on your hot surface and a hot plate, and you can even, I mean, if you look carefully here, you can literally share what kind of pasta or what kind of things you're doing on that countertop. I don't know if this is a concept or not. I presume it is, but the logic behind it is that through your mobile device and through physical devices that now get technified, if you will, it helps you do things in a smarter way. So I would imagine that if this is projected or if this is under the table, it would also give you the next step you have to do in terms of what your next cooking thing would be or how long your stuff needs to cook for. So sensors like the water temperature, the meat temperature, you see a lot of ovens these days coming with meat thermometers. Pair that up with a remote sensor and you can automatically coordinate. It's almost like the intro to Back to the Future, the first one, where Marty comes in and Doc Brown has all of his stuff going on. And stop me if I'm going, I think I'm saying this to the right audience. If I said it to my marketing friends, they'd be like, back to the what? Yeah. But in that, he has a whole automated system that takes care of his dog, that starts his breakfast, that makes his eggs, that wakes him up, that does the whole thing, you know? And that's sort of what I think we're going towards, but in a smoother, more seamless, more intelligent way. And so when you think about it, these connected devices, the technology that's been developed in sort of almost its own vacuum, when you compare it or when you blend it in with what we actually do on a day-to-day basis, you have the potential to help us live smarter, easier, and more meaningful lives. And I'll go into that in a little detail about what I mean by smarter, meaningful, and easier lives. Clearly not with an Apple remote. Oh yeah, there you go. So, for instance, I have a bunch of examples on the left. I'm not going to go into detail because we're still digesting, and detail usually makes me a little queasy kind of thing. But at the first end of things, on the smarter side of things, we're talking about devices that help you understand what's going on, that create a rich new layer over reality that allows you to take the data that's going on and use it in a smarter way. For instance, I'm wearing a Jawbone Up that, for me, I use it to measure my sleep patterns and my activity. I just recently had a kid, so naturally, my sleep patterns have dramatically shifted into 3 to 4 hour blocks. But whereas before I would understand how my fitness and how my exercise would impact how deeply I slept. And so that's one way that devices that give you the data of your everyday life can help you live better. So it encouraged me, for instance, to start walking more, to take breaks more, which much to the dislike of my employers, I ended up feeling healthy afterwards. And then you have other things over here, a lot of new stuff. Vessel is actually really new. You might have seen it because they've been investing a lot in media space. But it's a cup that basically measures what's inside it and keeps track of all the things that you consume. Super cool stuff. It uses molecular engineering or molecular something, molecular measurement. Basically tells you what's inside. It measures the amount of caffeine you take, the juices you drink, etc., and gives you your caloric intake, at least in liquids, just by looking at it. And for the drivers of us, this cool thing, Automatic, I thought it was drop thing. Automatic actually is a cool thing that plugs into your data port on your car and monitors how your car is performing, somewhat in a smarter way than a lot of the stock systems would measure. This gives you a personalized sort of approach to understanding how your driving habits are. And in theory, I could see the evolution of these things to going towards insurance companies to tell you whether or not you're a safe driver or whether or not you're driving well. And then in theory, maybe drop your premiums if you are one of those safer drivers, if you don't have accidents more frequently, or if you take care of your car, that kind of stuff. And the last bit on top is a little app called Hero, where basically it's a almost big brother-y, creepy kind of thing where you slap a wristwatch on your kid, let them roam free because it's got a built-in GPS. It's got its own SIM card in there, so if your 6-year-old decides to fly to Nicaragua, you can actually track them doing that. I don't know how they get through, but if they do, you can connect. So all these things basically show you, at least in the first way, how to do things in a smarter way. So Up gives you an idea about how you behave and gives you data for that behavior. Hero allows you to look after your kids without having to worry about it that much when they're playing outside. Vessel and Automatic basically allow you to quantify. So this is, in a way, the quantify itself, but at the same time, it also focuses on using that quantification for a net benefit. So it's, for instance, the talk about big data or raw data, how that raw data actually transforms into something useful. And then you saw that with the decision paths afterwards. That allows you to find out what all this massive amount of information can lead to into actually helping you do your search better. This is not that different. But on the easier front of things, we're also seeing a second trend of things making your life easier. So it's almost, once you have all this information, what do you do with it, and what kind of things really help you do what you want to do better? You also see devices that are becoming a lot more communicative. They connect with each other. And so as I say over here, as they connect and capture and analyze the information that's happening around them, they also share with other applications and create a richer experience in your app the more and more you use it. So I have examples here of PressureNet, for instance, that uses your sensors in your phone to understand the barometric pressure around you to tell you, okay, maybe Bauernradar says that it's going to be rainy today, but 300 people nearby tell me otherwise. So it's about crowdsourcing that knowledge and using it in a smarter way. You have on the top right Climate Corp, which is all about, it sounds really almost Skynet-like, but Climate Corp, basically they put monitors in your fields, they tell you how your wheat and your grass and your food and stuff like that is growing, and they tell farmers specific information on how they can farm better and more efficiently. And if farmers, as a lot of them do, have a lot of automation, this type of information would really help them get the most out of their acreage. And another app called, or another system called Twilight, which is actually a Dutch innovation, uses sensors and area technology. So basically, if you're walking into an area, the lights around you will actually change and adapt to your presence. So what that means is, if a car is driving, you'll get a wider field of vision than if you're walking. So all the lights would basically be at a dim level of 2, but if you're walking through it, it would jump up to surrounding lights for like a 3 or 4 to sort of give you enough space and enough room, but at the same time not create more light pollution, if you will, in that neighborhood. It's a great example of that. And it uses the data of speaking to each other, so the lights themselves talk to each other and understand what's going on, who's there, and what level they need to be at. So it's a smart way to use these connected technologies to provide a service that otherwise wouldn't be possible. And the last bit, I don't know if any of you have heard of it, the Copenhagen wheel. It's picking up quite a steam, ironically. Basically, what it does is basically it helps you bike as though you don't have any gears. It helps you bike as long distances without getting tired, and it's got data inside of it or it's got connections inside of it that connects with other Copenhagen wheels and other users to understand how, for instance, your own behavior matches up, or at the same time to provide better conditions on improving when the wheel needs to switch up. Yeah, I really suggest you look into it. It's a really cool idea. And I think it just left either Kickstarter or Indiegogo recently, so it might be open for sale shortly. And the last bit is about establishing a sense of meaning. So by proactively giving you recommendations and insights and helping you understand what's going on, platforms that either switch modes or change their interfaces are giving you a smarter way to interact with not only the device itself, but to do what you want to do better. And this is the area that I find the most interesting about the Internet of Things, because I believe that technology is not an end, but rather a means to enhance what you're already doing. It sounds a bit general, but at the same time, what these things end up focusing on is some really cool things. For instance, something as basic as a Philips Wi-Fi light can be paired up with an app that, when installed in a grocery store, if I have a recipe for burritos or whatever, the lights themselves can talk to each other and my mobile app and direct me to the different ingredients that I need to do. So you know how Albert Heijn has their appy or something that plans a looproute, a walking route. The same thing can be done, but in real time. So if I decide to change my mind and I don't want enchiladas tonight, I want something Italian or I want something Spanish, then well, enchiladas is Spanish, but I want something Italian or something French or something else, then I can switch it on the fly, and the lights themselves would communicate and direct me to the different routes and help me get there, just from a light bulb. And these other things in here are some cool stuff. I saw some people nodding when this came up. Cover is a cool platform that on your lock screen, it basically provides you all those types of apps that you frequently use in a given context. So if I'm at home, Cover will tell me my news feeds in the morning at home, for instance. It'll give me my news feeds, my music, everything I do and listen to in the morning, it'll provide on my cover screen and give me a quick and easy access. And then when I'm on the go, it'll notice I'm moving not as fast as a car, but slower than a bus, or faster than walking. So it'll give me my Runkeeper app, or give me some sort of other apps on the cover to help me, track my biking or track my walking. So it's a really cool adaptive sense that really understands what I'm doing by using the technology in the device, in the sensors, to provide me with the amount of information, or the right information at the right time. And that's basically what I'm getting at here. It's about opening up a more intimate and relevant relationship with people by sort of understanding what you need to do at that particular time, instead of leaving you to go from point zero, which is phone is locked, and then I have to open it, and I go through here and go click on that app, and then load the web page, which will get me to there. This gives it to you right away because it understands you need it right then and there. And the last two bits are more home-based kind of things. The Emo Spark over here is something not that different from the movie Her. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it's basically a guy who falls in love with his phone or his tech. But the notion of Emo Spark here is about understanding. It looks into your behaviors, looks into your posts, looks into the stuff that you do, and interacts with you. It's actually a computer rooted in artificial intelligence to provide you almost like an advanced Siri-like experience that's a little more personal, that connects with your devices at home, changes your lighting, changes the atmosphere to suit your mood, those kind of things. Almost like what I remember back in the day. A lot of my friends were really hip on Bill Gates' complete renovation of his home to be completely automated and all the lights and everything. He walks in and the lights turn on, stuff like that. That's like old school compared to this kind of stuff, where it senses not only your presence, but senses your emotional state, and it senses how you talk and how you are with people, and responds to that in an adaptive way. And the last bit, the eco factor, is something very similar, but it's closer to the Nest kind of thing, where and the Nest is sort of Google's integrated technology on pairing up your sensors and your devices, your lights and your heating and everything together to give you a uniform view on everything. EcoFactor understands your posts as well, understands your behavior and social behavior online, and connects with different things to provide you, again, with a home that understands you, that understands your behaviors and emotions and what you want to accomplish at home, or what you want to do at that time, and gives it to you in a way that feels like you have your own digital butler, effectively, where you don't even see them. And so what this really, at the heart of everything, is the fact that what Louis C.K. mentioned at the beginning, and what I was sort of drawing on, also the computer says no analogy, is the fact that there's a lot of different contexts and behaviors that we have in our everyday lives. There's a wake-up routine. Like even the background image over here is from a 1952 study of a day in the life of a little girl or whatever. Things like waking up, brushing your teeth, going to work or not going to work, or getting ready to go out, or hanging out with your brother or friends and whatnot. These different snapshots form moments of things that have clusters of activities around them. And that's at the root of consumer insight and consumer behavior mapping, is understanding what people do in a particular instance and what they need at that moment in order to do what they want or accomplish what they want in a smarter and a better way. It's almost like having really good customer service or really good service at a restaurant where, for instance, the waiter sees your face isn't liking your food too much and comes up right away and says, "Can I offer you something different?" It's that subtle sensitivity towards people's dispositions or even predispositions that helps you build technologies and devices around those moments that make sense and help you accomplish what you want in a smarter way. So imagine a future where our homes are able to understand different behaviors, different range of emotions, and this could lead to things, lead to these technologies adapting to our needs and learning from themselves and building upon their existing knowledge to help us, in the end, do things in even better and smarter ways. It's like arming yourself up, Iron Man styles kind of thing, where you can do things a lot better, a lot faster, a lot smarter. And so each instance demands a different kind of behavior. And so when you do that, when you understand what people need, when you understand and develop technologies with the consumer behavior, with design and function and form as well, built in together, you can make experiences a lot more relevant, a lot more memorable. Things like this moon landing, for instance, everyone that has either seen it or heard of it actually can recognize this as either a hoax or the real thing. And so when technology mixes seamlessly with context, it just works. It's just there, and it just helps me. And it doesn't have to be more complicated than that. Oftentimes it ends up being because of the overabundance of a tech-heavy kind of hand, so you need to strike a balance. But at the core of it, this ends up turning everyday life into a playground for things that you can really create. This is the Estimote iBeacon that, for instance, over here, I don't know if you can see, it's a little blurry. Basically, this guy's walking by a bar, and it just says, "Welcome, Lucas, are you thirsty? We have a new action right now, or a new deal right now that can give you $12 off on your beer," or whatever it is. So by understanding people passing by something, it can send messages, it can interact with you, and really connect in a smarter way. And so that essentially is a quick walkthrough of what I understand from the Internet of Things, but a lot of stuff is developing and changing as we speak. And a lot of things, like for instance the Fire app or the Fire system that we just saw recently. There's a lot of people playing with the space. The only thing I would caution is the fact that when designing stuff using this new technology, it helps not just to know the hardware, not just to understand the software really well, but understand the net benefit that the users are going to achieve from it, and working from that user-centric design, and working from out there in order to structure things that make sense in our everyday lives and that add value to it instead of frustrate and detract from it. Thank you.
Are there any questions for me?
I can't promise I know the answer, but I'll definitely give it a go.
Is
No?
cinema, you are from Cinema Center, right?
No.
No.
I do help with I have.
And then I said to him, the worst thing that can happen is if that were to cut out in front of you. No, but I've done some, I used to work with Maker Street a little bit and the 4G Accelerator recently. I helped with pitch and presentation training, basically helping people articulate their ideas, clarify what they need to say, and present literally in front of anyone. So that's sort of what I do. So I'm extern, effectively, yeah. I say, you know, if I'm honest, whatever message you get from it, yeah. Thank you. But you don't have to. You can hate it too. It's totally okay. Yeah. Trust me, at 2 o'clock in the morning last night, I hated my presentation. So, but if I'm honest, the only thing I would leave you guys with is the encouragement that design and programming shouldn't be built for programming's sake. It should be built for the people behind the computers, not just the coders, but people that would actually leave their house and use the devices. But that's just a jab. I'm an ex-coder myself, so I mean, and by ex, I mean I still dabble. But what I'm saying is, just use it to sort of help people's lives instead of code for coding's sake. Sort of what I think. Glad you liked it. Any other questions? Yes.
Hi.
Hi. You're welcome.
We do quite a lot of user testing in our usability lab, but what we experience at Sama is like there's a lot of pressure on deadlines.
Yeah.
What ways would convince site owners to also put in time for testing in the end of the life cycle instead of going live?
Well, it's also part and parcel of some. If I understand your question correctly, some of the innovation process, it depends on what you agree on to start with. The work I've done with Maker Lab involves a lot of pivoting and a lot of testing, and that's inherently built into the development of the platform. So even the gentleman that wanted to revolutionize the fire industry still did his validation. So in terms of starting anything, it just even, to be honest, even in high school and university, my professors always said you have to make a point and back it up. You can't back it up without validating it, and without building that validation there, and your product just becomes, you know, you throw it on the wall and hope it sticks. So as a tip to build it in, everyone likes a product that when launched will work. The only way, or one of the more reliable ways to know that it will work, is to test it on a small group. You can do small limited beta testing within fixed groups, but I mean, this becomes more of a management kind of, less Internet of Things kind of thing. But just in terms of that area, it's about building it in to make sure that when you do launch, you're not launching a POS. You know what I mean? There was another question in the corner. You said.
I like the example you had at the end with are you thirsty, do you want a drink?
Yeah.
One disadvantage of such technology is we've seen it with SMS, Bluetooth, and narrowcasting, that by the time
Push.
marketeers have embraced this technology, everybody hates it because
Yeah.
it's mostly marketing. So how do we avoid ruining these kinds of technologies by just using them for marketing? How can we
Well, first off, you say those things to marketeers like me and force me to say things like, on behalf of the entire marketing industry, I apologize for the BS push messages of people and marketeers that have no clue how to use the technology. My mission is to actually try to change that. You do that by understanding what people actually give a shit about. And that'll tell you what messages they actually need to send. So similar to understanding the query paths, it helps you filter what specific insight that person is looking for. So if I'm looking for, from one search I look for diapers, another one I look for other things, whatever, someone might understand that I'm a dad, or I'm looking for stuff related to family stuff. And then providing that information at the right time, if it fits, will actually make me go, hey, I didn't think of that. Maybe I should try that out. Instead of send kind of thing, and then just blur my vision with messages that make no sense, that actually hide the one thing that I actually need at that time. So it'll take people who understand the technology and understand how to use it and the limits and context that it's used in to develop communications that fit with that. And that's what I do, and I work with the teams here at Sanoma and the innovators as well. And happy to work with any of you guys if you so want, you know. But that's sort of, one, I'm sorry for the marketeers of the world. A lot of them are idiots. I can't help it, but the only thing I can do is in the stuff that I develop, it's all based on consumer research, consumer insights. So, thank you for your time.